Alina, thank you so much for coming onto the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
This is such a fun, joyful thing to reconnect.
A fun reconnection with purpose, because the reason that I started the show and the reason that I think we connected is so that we can tell our tales to people and find out what you're up to. And not to go too far back, but I would love to start with, because one of the things I noticed as we've been friends since high school, but social media friends for like 22 years or whatever it is now.
Since college.
Yeah.
That's when it came out, right?
Right.
Age ourselves.
So you at one point were doing some natural bodybuilding stuff, right? And one of the big purposes of the show is like overcoming obstacles and adversity. Was there something in your life that set you on that journey to achieve that goal?
Yeah. So that might have been a hormonal imbalance, because I made the decision to do that when I was pregnant with my son, with my second.
Okay.
And then I walked into, at that time, he owned the gym that I go to, my trainer as well, dear friend. And I said, I think I'm going to do a bodybuilding competition, because that's what he was into. And he goes, done. And I'm like, okay. And the next day I changed my mind, and he said, no way, you're doing it. And so I'm like, what did I do? But also I was pregnant, and I'm like, he'll forget.
Right.
So quite literally the moment, I had Brooks in August, I got a call with congratulating me on having a new baby and let me know when you're clear to work out the next day. Yeah. So I think 3 months after I got clearance to work out, and I tried to quit many times and he wouldn't let me. But I will tell you, I trained for 6 months before I got on stage. Okay. And I also at that time got a promotion, which caused me to travel almost every week. And, the routine that I was in with working out, the food regimen, the supplements, I had to travel with all of it. You know, I had to do cardio. Every day I had to do cardio. And I remember one day I had a flight at 6 a.m. and I was with Henry, and I'm like, hey, I don't think I'll be able to do my cardio tomorrow. And he said, why? And I said, well, I have a flight at 6. I have to get up at 4 to get ready. And he goes, sounds like you're doing cardio at 2 a.m. And I'm like, this guy's nuts. But I got up and I did cardio at 2 a.m. So I always say it was probably one of the most incredible experiences, the training process, not even the show, but the journey to the show. What's that? The discipline. That it almost felt like I had like blindfolds that were taken off, because I got to like see people and hear excuses that I used to make as well, but I wasn't able to, because I had someone really awesome holding me accountable now. And then I started to hold myself accountable. But like hearing how people make excuses, it taught me so many incredible things.
About yourself and other people?
Yeah. Yeah, and just about what I'm capable of. And, when you think, I can't, you can. You can.
Well, what I meant by that is, what I have found on my journey is, when I'm speaking negatively about myself, then I get negative results. 100%. Right? So when I think I can't, I can't. But if I think I can, I do.
Yeah. Well, and also I learned the power of accountability. And we just talked about you having an accountability buddy.
Accountability buddy.
Yeah.
It sounds fun when you say it all as one.
That sounded like one word.
Yeah. It's an onomatopoeia.
Yeah. So now, anytime I have a goal that I want to accomplish, I know I have to find somebody that's going to hold me accountable. Because even though I am I'm very disciplined, although I'll have my moments here and there. I like to set high goals. Sometimes I say, unfortunately, an overachiever. But having somebody who knows why you want to do it and will truly hold you accountable makes all the difference for me.
Is there a give and take on that? Like, when you find those individuals, is it something like, hey, we want to achieve this together? Or could it be like, my goal could be, one of the recent goals I've set is I'm going to read 2 books a month.
Love that.
Right? Now, the idea behind that is I have to give myself a little grace so that I don't have an excuse. And that grace is that I'm going to read every day, like they do in 75 Hard or whatever, but it's 7 days a week. I'm going to read every day. I may not finish both these books because of my capability, but but I'm putting the effort and time in.
Yeah.
Right. And so could that back up against like maybe somebody else's goal? My other accountability buddy is I want to do a 10-mile run. And so they're training for that and I'm training for my book thing. Or is it got to be the same pattern?
No, I don't think it has to be the same pattern.
Okay.
Something that I have found, and just going back to, giving yourself a little grace, because I tend to be really hard on myself.
Yeah.
And, as I mentioned with this process of training and learning, the show, like when I got to the show day, which was the goal, right? That didn't matter as much as the journey mattered. Like the way you get to the goal is so much more important than the actual goal, right? Because if you've ever achieved a goal, which I know you have, it feels really good for how long?
Couple weeks,
maybe,
until people stop noticing.
Right, or until you're like, oh, I need to do something else to get that high again.
Right.
So it's like that journey is what's important, and I think if you have people that are aligned on that and just hold you accountable to the little things that you do every day, that's what matters.
Yeah, I think Jordan Peterson talks about how, and political views aside, I just enjoy his intelligence.
Yes, same.
He talks about how it's good to have a goal that's unachievable, right? Like you're always working towards it. And it's the same thing as you, because one of my biggest flaws, which I now look at flaws as lessons, so like I'm no longer ashamed of them. I shouldn't say I'm no longer ashamed. I'm working on no longer being ashamed. I'm still ashamed at times of them.
Of course.
But I talk positive myself and say, hey, everybody has flaws. But one of the bigger ones was that I would rest on my laurels after a win. Right? So I would accomplish a goal, and then I would let that be the way I move forward, or spoke to people like, oh, well, I haven't drank in whatever. I went 5 years without drinking, but at 30 I started drinking again. And so now what's my new thing to talk about is, oh, I've gotten to a point in my life where I can have one cocktail a week and it's okay.
Yeah.
What is that? I need new goals.
Yeah.
And so I love that, how you talk about you got to set those new goals, because I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's what I've been doing. That's been trying to find my happiness.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to look at it. Like, all right, done.
Yeah. Like
we won the championship. Now get ready for next year.
Yeah. Well, right? And I think just knowing that, right? Like knowing, because I think people, and when I say people, I mean me too. We set.
Sometimes I don't stop on things. Yeah, but do you find it's hard to talk about do you think it's better to talk about yourself specifically rather than paint a broad brush to hold yourself accountable?
Well, yes, but also I don't like to make assumptions.
Yeah, yeah. I always used to put myself in categories so that I was safe.
Yeah.
When I talked about myself.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
It's a therapy session.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
It's the couch.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying.
You were talking about when you do set a goal.
Yeah, and you everything kind of hinges on when I achieve it. Like I will get what I want. I will be so happy. I will whatever. And we set these great expectations, and you probably get that feeling of check, done. You get noticed, you get praise, you get whatever, good figure, whatever the goal is. But knowing, okay, it's not going to last forever. That high is not going to last forever.
Yeah.
So I think just knowing that and realizing that, and knowing that appreciating the journey more than appreciating the end result is what keeps you.
That's a
growing.
Really cool way to think about it, because I think my mindset has been beating around that. But as simple as that may sound for you to say out loud, that just put it in a big different perspective for me, because I didn't understand
why. Just here to add value.
I know, you're doing great. I didn't know why I was like trying to find something else, and so I've been doing littles and bigs. So it's strategic.
But the little goals are just as important to him. Or not even goals, but like habits, right? Like you mentioned to me that every day you kind of do self-reflection, which I love. But like, do you celebrate? Like, oh heck yeah, I did that. Good for me.
I've not gotten there yet.
Yeah,
my accountability buddies, I've had so many people that have really, my circle has grown and stayed small at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have like 4 people around me right now that are immaculate at praising me.
Awesome.
And I've just now started to accept that praise.
Did it feel uncomfortable at first?
So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I was so dishonest with myself about so many things forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when I'm like, okay, no, I'm worthy of that.
Yeah.
Because my journey started to prove something to someone, not myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so like one of the phrases I've used a couple other times now that I really have come to love is, there is such thing as faking it till you make it.
Yeah.
But what really happens, and when you really mature, is when you do it till you become it.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people were like, oh, you know, there's always gonna be haters. And it'd be like, oh, this seems this way or this seems this way. Okay, let it seem that way. I used to feed on that. And then that affirmation, negative affirmation, would make me feel like maybe I am doing it for a thing.
Yeah.
And then I would. It would be a joke to me.
Yeah.
But now like contrast therapy and yoga and breath therapy, all this stuff that I was like, oh, hokey, jokey. Yeah. When I take it seriously, it works because you're taking it seriously.
What you feed grows.
So no more faking it till you make it. My whole thing with my kids now is I'm like, do it till you become it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I just had a talk with my daughter this morning about...
She's the same age as... No, she's a little older than my oldest, I think, right?
Yeah, she's 10. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mine turns 10 in March, my youngest.
Okay, yeah, so she'll be 11 this year.
We're going into 4th grade, you're going into 5th.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
So we were just talking because she does Kumon. I don't know, it's like a extra math.
Oh, it's got the little character?
It does, yeah.
Like a little pet rock almost?
She hates it. One day she told me, she's like, you know, Mom, when I have a daughter, I will never make her do Kumon. I'm like,
I used to have
that's
to do
the worst thing that I do as a mother to you. I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm teaching you too much?
Yeah. So, you know, she was making a case of why she should have her iPad next to her to listen to music while she does Kumon because, you know, Mom, it just gets rid of all the negative thoughts that I have about Kumon. Like, this is going to be hard. And I'm like, well, you just made a case of why you're not going to have an iPad next to you listening to music.
But her trying to reason is pretty cool.
Love it. Totally. But, you know, we had this conversation about, she just got plants all over her room. That's her new thing. Plants, like literally little tiny plants all over her room.
Oh, like little succulents and stuff?
Well, they're actual plants. And she's like, my theme is nature this year. I'm like,
she's in her nature era?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
As people say.
So, you know, and she's watering the plants. And so I'm like, look, it's like your plants, right? Like, if you had one plant that was just there and you never watered it, it would die. Then you have another plant. If you take care of it and you water it, it's going to continue to grow. Yeah. Your thoughts are the same. Yeah. Whatever you continue to feed is going to grow. Okay. So if you have these thoughts about Kumon that it sucks and that's suck. And that because I'm like, every time we talk about Kumon, you roll your eyes, or potential of maybe you won't have time with all your activities for Kumon. She does a little dance, and I'm like, let's flip it. And then we did talk about, I'm like, maybe even fake it at first, like. Just celebrate doing Kumon, even if it feels weird or funny.
Hard to be mad when you're singing Happy Birthday.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see how it works, but we just had that talk this morning.
My son is, my older son is built like a G.I. Joe. He has a six-pack. My little son is determined to have a six-pack this year.
Oh, buddy.
This is his first year of tackle football. But he has these habits that have been created over the years that I've fed into. So it's not like a one-sided thing, a one-parent thing. I've definitely fed into these things. Yeah. So like the other day, this was 2 days ago, I was like, hey, time for our walk. We've been going on a walk. But in this particular day, he was playing Oculus, and I give him a little Oculus time. But one thing we've started doing is I said, you have an hour each day that I will work with you on whatever you're going to be great at.
Love it.
I said, because if you can do an hour of anything, because he would ask me, can I have 2 hours to play on my VR? I said, I don't know. Do you plan on becoming an AI robot?
Yeah.
Because you'll be the best one there is.
Love it.
I'll give you some time, but we're going to do one thing you want to do for an hour. So it's quarterbacking right now is what it's into.
Love it.
And so we throw the ball for half an hour.
What a great role model he has, too. With your older, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Corner and quarter.
Love it.
At first, he used to be really into music, and I thought to myself, like, the thing I used to dream about would be, like, I'd be in the front row of the Super Bowl, and, like, my oldest would be playing, and then my youngest would do the halftime show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Trav and Taylor thing, except she didn't do
like
the
Trav and Taylor, except they both be boys and they both make sons.
Right, love it. Talk about overachieving here.
Yeah. But no, I had him do the same thing. So he's reluctantly walking, and it's almost dark. It's like 8:30.
Yeah.
I was almost at 8:15. It had to be 8:30 because it was almost dark. And the first lap took us forever.
Yeah.
So we got back to the thing, and we also have this new thing where I was really bad at, I didn't understand that energy feeds children more than speech.
Yeah.
And so like when my energy's been changing, his energy's been changing, more calm. And so we lead with love only. I don't yell and scream. I don't spank. I was never like a consecutive spanker, but
I don't spank, but I do scream.
There's been some spots in the house. And usually it's like if you do 4 or 5 good ones in their lifetime, then the rest of your life's just like, do we need to go to the bathroom? And they're like, no, absolutely not. So, but we've done away with all of that. Now we talk it out. And so I said, look, here's the deal. I said, there's still discipline. So we got to the crux of where we started our walk. And I said, you can walk straight ahead, back to the truck. We can go home and you don't have Oculus for 2 days. Or you can make a left at that bridge and we can take our second lap. Choice is yours. And he made a left. And we did it. And about halfway through that, he started keeping pace. Then he started talking. And then we got home. We were cheery and happy. And, you know, sometimes if he's mad at me, he'll try and hide his. I always give him a kiss on his head at night. Sometimes we'll hide his head. But he let me give him a kiss that night. So everything worked out in the end. But it was faking it till you make it.
Moment. Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome because it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, leading this little horse, in this case, little Schonhorst, to water and let him drink, right? So it's been incredible to watch him, and it helps my inner child because he's like a little version of me.
Yeah.
And your little one, your oldest, your girl is pretty much like a spitting image of you too.
Yeah, don't tell her that.
Is it weird to watch?
No,
like
she
your little self?
hates it.
I know, for you, do you love like watching your little self? Or do you sometimes feel like an out-of-body experience? Like sometimes I'll watch Tyson run and I'll be like, whoa, that's me when I was 9.
I love it so much. Yeah. Although, you know, like sometimes it brings up certain things and feelings, whatever, but I love it so much. And I'm like, I mean, your mom's not a super, but it's not that bad. Like when people are like, you look just like your mom. She's like, well, I look like my dad too. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, you do. Or she'll go, yeah, I may look like my mom, but I have my dad's mannerisms. And I'm like, actually, you're just like me. Sorry.
Because only I would say mannerisms at your age.
I'm like, you know, she likes to do a lot of the things that my husband does.
Sure.
And their relationship is the cutest thing in the world. But I'm like, sorry, girl, copy paste. Yeah.
They come around at like 20.
Okay, I hope so. I mean, we have a very close relationship. I love her so much. And you know, the relationship she has with my husband is really great too. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's great.
The father-daughter thing is always, I don't know if it's had the boys, but.
It's so cute. It's also a little unfair because we have a little guy, Brooks, who's going to be 6 soon. And I mean, the way he treats Brooks versus her, I'm like, can you like fake it a little at least?
Well, you're raising a man. He's got to be a man.
That's what he says. And you know, and I think I'm a little more like, oh, my little boy. Versus with Livy, I'm like, pull it together, you know?
Well, there's something to that.
It's funny that
especially
you talk
nowadays, right?
Talk to your inner child. And one time somebody asked me, like, you know, what would you say to yourself when you were 10? And how would you talk to yourself versus the way you talk to Olivia? And I'm like, I would never talk to Olivia the way I talk to myself.
Yeah, you're harder on yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're afraid she'd be like, no. Yeah. The big dude is 20, my oldest. And
that's weird.
It is, especially because like people, like we'll be out and they'll be like, oh, like, I don't know, never mind.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Cut this one out.
They'll be like, it's weird when we hug in public.
Yeah, okay? I'm sure.
People give us weird looks sometimes.
But you guys look a lot alike.
We do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially since he
started. Does he get embarrassed? Does he like stop?
No, he just thinks it's funny because we've gotten like congratulatory looks.
Yeah.
Like, oh, good for you guys coming out.
Because
we're like built the same size.
I remember when I was a little.
He's fitter than me.
Yeah.
But it just looks like my.
When I was like 14, so not quite that old.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, have this vivid memory of being with my dad at the mall.
Okay.
And he was, you know, like he had his hand on my shoulder because we were on the escalator. And I was like looking around like, oh my, because my dad looked really young. And
he was a sugar daddy?
Yeah. I was like,
wait, was this when you were to the jewelry store?
No, this was pre all of that.
I forgot about how long ago, how old we are.
Same. I know. I'm like,
2 years ago in August, so almost like 2 years ago today. Was it 2 years ago? Might have been 3 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
My dog Buzz passed away at 16 years old.
Mm.
And I got him when he was little from Past Pets. And
Yeah.
you were working at the mall.
Yeah.
And I stopped to show him to you. It was me and Blair.
Oh my God.
My 20-year-old.
Yes.
Who was like 3 at the time.
Oh my God.
And we walked past you and you worked at the mall and we were petting the puppy and the security guard, I have a pretty ridiculous memory.
Yeah.
The security guard came up and was like, hey, you can't have that dog in here.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I was like,
I
bought
literally
it
would
here.
not. Yeah, you're like.
How am I supposed to get it out? The back door? Like, the people Past Pets didn't offer, like,
Yeah.
oh, once you purchase the animal, go
Yeah.
out that way. It was like, I got to go back to my car. And he was like
crazy.
upsetting. Yeah, that dog just passed 2 years ago. It
I'm
made
sorry.
it so long.
Yeah.
No more dogs for me until I don't have any responsibilities.
I can't. I have a dog, and my kids will tell you that's my favorite child. Can't even think about that.
I wouldn't even dare because of that, though, too. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was my dude. Like
Maya.
when you have shared custody, that was just, it was me and him a lot. Mm-hmm. Especially like during COVID.
I know. Maya worked
God.
overtime as a therapy dog during COVID.
Yeah.
You're not getting paid enough for this.
I had full-on conversations with him.
I know.
Sober.
Oh,
Like,
maybe.
like dead sober.
High on life.
Like middle of the
probably,
day.
but-
Like, are you watching this?
well, who else were you going to talk to?
Right.
Yeah.
But like, he kind of
Yeah.
like, and it's like, are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Are you watching this with me?
Oh, I know. They're
He
the
was a
best.
good dude.
They're the best.
He was the best. But what you were talking about when you're talking about to your inner child, that's another thing that I've started realizing is when I'm talking to my outer children, is I couldn't figure out the magic key. And so I used to try and go back and be like, how would I want to receive that? My older son is calm and chill. And that's probably a lot to do with his secondary home, like where he was at, or I shouldn't say secondary, but like his mom's house. And this dude, younger guy, chaos, because there was chaos all around. And to no fault of either parent per se, this is just undealt with trauma on both sides.
Sure.
And so like finding a way to communicate with him was so difficult.
Probably because he's just like you said.
He is just like me.
Yeah.
But the older one I found, like when I say they come around, we'll be out places all the time. And like the other day we were at Katie's Pizzeria, plug. Sponsor the show.
Yeah.
We were at Katie's Pizzeria and they were like, what can I get you a drink? And both of us not only said, I'll just have a water, like verbatim, I'll just have a water, but pointed at the waitress at the same time and said, I'll just have a water.
Oh.
Like same hand, same face,
Yeah,
same the whole
just
thing.
like,
And she was like, that was eerie. And we both were like, huh, like same laugh, goofy laugh afterwards.
Oh,
And
cool.
but little dude, is me.
Oh,
He is me. And I was just like, it was scary for me because I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this.
you can handle it.
I have.
You wouldn't have been given it if you couldn't handle
That's
it.
the prayer that was answered for patience.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, but my energy's been changing, and his energy's been changing.
Yeah.
He'll sit down and watch a movie, and he'll do these things. Like in the last 3 months, he's been such huge changes that I couldn't figure out for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I started realizing, like, oh, he's feeding off me like a horse.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like they can sense that stuff.
It's crazy too, I think, as a parent.
You guys do equestrian stuff.
Oh yeah,
Don't you?
Livy loves it. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was just a phase, but it's no phase.
No.
No, she's obsessed. But as a parent, when you realize how important your role is, that sometimes feels really heavy because sometimes I'm like, first of all, I'm not old. You're going to laugh, but I'm like, I'm not old enough to have a 10-year-old. And
No.
you have an almost 20-year-old.
No.
But I'm like,
My kid's my age now.
you're right. That's how I feel. I'm
Yeah.
like, and to have this responsibility to like shape them. And, I'm like, I'm still learning. Like we talked about constantly being on this journey and evolving and changing. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to give her all the lessons that, I don't even technically yet know.
I don't think our parents had it figured out either, though. I think that's the key. It's like
no, and someone
we
said
learn
to
from
me,
each other.
You do the best you can with what you have at the time.
Yeah.
And I do think that we take what we've been
Given.
given by our parents who did the best they can with whatever they had, whether some of those gifts were trauma or you know.
Yeah.
And then you kind of take it.
A lot of my biggest gifts were trauma.
Isn't it? Isn't that so fun?
All the biggest boxes under the tree, trauma. All the little ones,
Thanks,
that's the good
Dad.
stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, we laugh about it, but truly, like, you wouldn't be the person you were today without that. But then you take the lessons, and you become, you know, an enhanced version of that for your little people, and
right.
they'll be better than me, I'm sure.
Yeah, and
that's the goal.
Ours is Tyson and I's relationship is very much like a buddy cop film. Like he's, you know, like I'm actually neither one of us are the straight laced one, so maybe that doesn't. But you know, he teaches me how to let loose and be more patient through like having to tolerate certain things without just flying off the handle.
Yeah.
And I teach him hopefully a little more structure.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is the structure that I've been teaching now is because of him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I don't do this, he's going to be lost.
Well, and like you said, they learn not by your words,
but by your doing.
By example. I actually, this is totally, I'm squirreling off, kind of.
Yeah.
But I heard this, I think Dave Asprey maybe, somebody that I follow online, who talked about how just based on our human nature, like there's a period in life where our kids will think that we are the dumbest people on the planet.
Yeah.
Like we don't know anything.
For sure.
Just because of the tribal whatever back in the day.
I experience it daily.
And that's, well, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's so important to have the right circle and the right people around you, because their friends' parents are going to have a lot more credibility to them than you will up until 20 or whatever. They come back to you.
It's still there. But I've had friends of my sons ask me questions that I would always like, why isn't my son talking about this?
But their parents have probably told them, but you say it and they hear it.
Yeah, and reflectively,
totally.
I have an aunt who was very instrumental in like the structure of my life. Was like very disciplinary. You may have heard me talk about her back in high school, because in high school I couldn't stand her.
Yeah, isn't that
she was
funny?
a big B word because she was like trying to help me stay on track.
Yeah.
Hindsight, there's times where her and I will be having conversations now, and she's like, "Oh, imagine that! Like I didn't tell you that for 20 years."
Yeah.
The big kicker for me with raising children and getting them up to speed was a realization. I read something years ago, but I didn't really like think about it until recently, and that was everybody always tells their kids they can be whatever they want to be, but at some point that kid starts questioning if you are what you want to be.
Ooh, got goosebumps.
I didn't make it, but you can use it.
No, thank you. Put in my pocket.
But it's a good one, because I was like, well, that's why I started doing it. I'm like, who cares? Like, what?
Lead by example, right?
Yeah. Growing up, I always remember people wanted to be marine biologists. I don't know if it was like a 90s thing. There was that remake that they did a full-length Flipper film. Elijah Wood and Paul Hogan, the guy who played Croc Dundee.
Yeah.
You know,
nice.
He was in Flipper. And then Free Willy with the amazing soundtrack from Michael Jackson.
Of course.
It was a huge, powerful film. But all these people that I knew, like I can vividly remember several people in my class, especially the young ladies, who were like, I want to be a marine biologist. It was like a popular thing to want to be. I don't know one single marine biologist.
Yeah.
Not one.
Exactly.
Not one person. And I know at least 2,000 people on Facebook.
Yeah.
Not one of their occupations is marine biology.
No. There's a video, when we first moved to America, I used to ballroom dance competitively in Uzbekistan.
Okay.
Then we moved here, I competed as well. And 2 months into, and I didn't know any English, right? So I had a terrible attitude. Like I was such a B. Oh my God. Because I hated everyone and everything. Yeah, but I was a ballroom dancer, and I won this competition.
You're like, I'm such a B.
No.
I'm such a ballroom dancer.
I was that, but also like the big B that you thought your aunt was.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
So I won this whatever competition, and they pulled me. There's a news channel there, and me and my partner was from here. He's so much shorter than me. Just
that age.
Yeah. And plus, my mom would do my hair like really tall, so I was taller, and then my hair on top.
Marge Simpson hair.
Yeah, kind of. I want to find this video so bad. There's a VHS tape of it somewhere, but I don't know where. Anyways, and they were like, "Who do you want to be when you grow up?" And someone was like translating it to me, and I'm like, in the worst. My first language was Russian, and I was like, "I want to be a dancer and a lawyer, and like the way I said it with this Russian accent, and I'm like,
lawyer.
Like I was so, my voice got really deep.
Yeah.
No, but
Russian's a scary accent.
It is. It is. My friends always think we're fighting if they're around. You know, I'm like, we're just saying I love you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm neither. You know,
Neither.
kid dreams, neither a lawyer or a dancer.
Yeah.
Although I did start dancing again.
There you go.
It's my next big goal.
A hobby.
Big goal.
I don't know if it necessarily translates into being like, you know, because how many cops and firemen would there be too, right? Like, everybody be a cop or a fireman as a boy. Yeah. I was talking to a gentleman who owns a roofing company here, Tesson Roofing. Another plugging the
no kidding.
Shit out of stuff today.
Fresca.
And right. That'll probably demonetize us, actually. You can't show product. So
sorry.
I was telling him that I was like, "What? How'd you get into roofing?" Because like I don't remember being like a 7-year-old boy and like all of us gathering at the circle and be like, "You guys want to play roofer today?" Like that was never something we aspired to be. And so like I don't know that it necessarily means you have to like be whatever that is as a dream, but I think that I took a loose translation of that currently about. Are you what you want to be? And it's like, am I following my passions in life?
Yeah.
So like we talked about, you didn't know I painted. And we walked past that painting. I was like, I did that painting. That's a passion of mine.
Totally.
That I had put by the wayside for a long time. But now I make time monthly to do a painting.
So that's how dancing is. I literally just started again last week.
So I think you are.
I am a dancer.
You're being what you want to be.
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't have to be your profession. It's am I pursuing my dreams?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because if you're not pursuing them, then they're just dreams.
And then unless you're a crazy overachiever who needs goals, I'm now, I'm like, I'm going to compete and I'm going to win. If I don't, I'm going to compete again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't just have fun.
2 quick segues off of that, because one's a thought. My great aunt, Ava, who you probably remember her. That's who I lived with in high school, and just such a beautiful soul. She and I bonded because it was that was my rebellious era over Dancing with the Stars. Because I was walking out, like it was probably junior, senior year when that started, maybe sophomore year. It was in high school when that first started. And she's like, "Hey, do you want to watch Dancing with the Stars with me?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Have you seen what the girls wear?"
Smart woman.
Yeah, and I was like, "I'll watch it."
Yeah.
I'll watch a little bit of it. And so I sat down and we watched that, and then we ended up watching that every season until she passed.
Oh, so
like
cool.
That was our thing that we bonded over.
Do you still watch it?
I watch it from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I'm not as like enthusiastic about having to like look at women in whatever outfits, but 2 is just because like, now that you say though, maybe I should take the time.
I actually think it's cool because
reminisce.
Mine is the outfits.
Yeah.
But like seeing some people who are like at the top of their game, whether it's athletes or actors or whatever,
trying
get
to learn
so
something
humbled.
New. Yeah.
By doing something.
I
totally
thought
different.
I was athletic until I recently started doing trying to jump rope.
Oh.
You ever watch me jump rope? You think I'd never play a sport in my life?
That's wild.
You'd probably debate whether or not I could go to the kitchen and not fall. Like, you got to the point where I was doing this thing with CrossFit, and you got to do like these clean and jerks, and then you do 30 jump ropes.
Yeah.
And then you do clean and jerks.
Yeah.
Well, like 4 sets in, I was like, I'm just going to do calf raises and tap my hips. Because it was so embarrassing. It was taking so long to do like 2 rotations. I felt like I was like Muhammad Ali.
Oh my God.
I was like, ooh, do you see me do 2 in a row?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, do 30.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know about 30, bro.
Humbled.
Yeah, so humbled. And it's such a great experience. So I like not being hinged on that. But the segue I was going to use about chasing your dreams is that I wanted to discuss with you your future. Because you have another dream that you're achieving with some friends, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little about your clothing line, how that came to be.
Yes. This was, we talk about universe and stars aligning. This was it. It was wild. So just puzzle pieces that fall together and, like previous experiences you pull from or relationships. My God, the relationships that you form are so important. I tell my kids that all the time too. But I've been in sales and promo world for a long period of time in apparel, just selling in that promotional product space for a really long time. Met some of the greatest people in that industry. And then during COVID, I quit because we just had this epiphany of like, I'm traveling all the time. Mark's traveling all the time. And we were like stuck together. And anyways, I completely pivoted. I actually did sales training. I created a sales training course, and that company was around for 6 months. It got bought out. So then I went and built a division with a company around sales training. So sales has always been a part of it. But I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I love building things from scratch so much, and just seeing it from the beginning. And actually last year I got a call from a dear friend of mine from my previous life, and I knew he had this thing he was asked to build. He wanted build an apparel line, and I knew that he was doing it, and I was kind of talking through it with him through his journey, and he was like, hey, you have an opportunity to come on board if you want. You'd be person number 3. And I'm like,
let's go.
Let's do this. Because, I always talk about the importance of understanding your why and knowing, if the mission aligns, and the mission of, what we're doing now is so cool, because, yeah, we have really great apparel. But that's one pillar, good fabrics, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But another pillar is our story. And the story is around American gratitude. So the brand was born because you talked about roofing. We call him Steve the Roofer. That's our owner, the guy that actually envisioned why we're even here.
Yeah.
He's a roofer out of Texas, and he was so frustrated by some of his favorite brands that he used to wear sponsoring divisive rhetoric. He was like, everywhere I look, it's sponsoring messages or trends or whatever that make people argue or make people be more polarized. He's like, I want to create a brand that brings people together. He's like, I have the resources, I just don't know anything about apparel.
Well, you're first generation immigrant, so you can vouch for the importance of that.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
It's wild watching people fight and complain about this country.
All the privileges they have?
When they've never been outside of this country.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, for another episode. So yeah, and this mission of speaking about gratitude and American gratitude, and let's focus on what you have versus what you don't, you think you don't, right? And how can we help realize that regardless of what our views are, we're all united under.
How many cast members on SNL do you think would not be cast members after 2 weeks if the SNL was in Russian? Could you see them playing political figures in Russia?
Oh my God. Well, I think they get killed right away. Sorry, maybe we don't air that because I don't want to get killed. No, it's
fine.
But
he's not worried about us.
Yeah, no doubt.
Putin's not like, we got to cancel this podcast.
Plug.
Immediately.
Putin, plug.
Don't drink the soup.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard they're big on soup poisoning.
No doubt. Yeah. Something. Plane crashes, whatever floats that boat. Anyways, but yeah, that's the beautiful thing is we can disagree. In fact, disagreeing is what makes this country so cool.
Yeah.
And be able to have these conversations, but no, you're not my worst enemy.
Right.
We're still friends. We are united under this one flag in this one beautiful country, regardless of all the mess that, they want to show us.
Yeah.
And so we're building this brand that people will hopefully really enjoy wearing. I keep touching the stuff because it really is great to wear. But, with the message of rising for the flag and show appreciation for our country and being united.
I like that. And I like the angle of not I don't know where, just tiptoe on this for a second, because again, another show, another time, but I don't know when the American flag became synonymous with anything but goodness.
Let me share this with you, because truly when we came out, and we had
my whole family's retired military. All 3 uncles and grandfather.
I didn't know that.
I had heart surgery when I was a kid.
I did know that.
So nobody would take me. But I mean, that was the original plan, to do everything that everybody else did in the family.
Wow.
And so that never happened. But it was, I never once have I looked at anybody in my family, and I know for a fact, there's no bigotry. I mean, my grandfather was from the 30s, so he's had some stuff that wouldn't be PC for sure.
Yeah,
but all that generation did.
Sure.
But there was never.
Well, in the military, I get to work with one of my best friends, I would say now, Corey Cardinal. She's a female, not
Oh.
you know,
And her last name's Cardinal?
I know, she's
How's
the
St.
coolest. She's not from St. Louis, but I keep trying to bring him here. Anyways, but her husband is a veteran. Her daughter's in the Air Force Academy, so she has this beautiful perspective. And you know, literally, like if you ask her what does the flag mean to her, she starts to tear up because it's so, in the way she talks about.
As well?
No.
Well, we all are.
Corey's not.
I guess,
Right.
but just not
not
generationally.
Right.
Like how far back?
But you know, one thing she always talks about that her husband spoke of is in combat, you don't care. You're white, you're black, you're purple, you're whatever. As long as you have my back, that's all I care about, right? Because it's back to back. You got to have mine, and I'll have yours.
Religious freedoms and all that stuff comes down too. There's a song by Regina Spektor. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
I actually really enjoy her. You should check her out. But there's a verse in one of her songs that no one's laughing at God in a hospital. No one's laughing at God in a war.
Isn't that true?
Because when you're in those positions, it's not about all the superficial things.
It's not about it. It's about.
But we as Americans, overall, have too much time to worry about superficial things because we have so many privileges.
Exactly.
I don't think there's a firm understanding that when it comes to women's rights or equal rights of any kind, that most little girls, not most, that's probably too broad of a brush, many, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of little girls don't have a right to an education.
Yeah. Yes.
Many millions of people that don't agree with their government do not have a platform to disagree with their government.
Oh my God, no.
You know, and so some of these things now, do I still think there is room for protest? Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with something, protest. That's a beautiful part of this country.
Yes. Yeah.
But if I don't sit in your protest, it doesn't mean I hate you as a person.
Right.
And it doesn't mean I dislike you because of your beliefs.
Right.
It just means I don't agree with that perspective.
Yes.
On that one particular thing. That's it.
Right. Yes. And it's interesting. You mentioned, when did the flag become so polarizing and divisive? Yeah. So our logo is
pick it up, show us.
Well, I would love to, but usually it's two colors. But if you look at it, it's in the shape of a hand, as if it was over your heart, right?
Because I see it.
Our whole thing is standing for the flag.
There's 5 lines.
Yep, 5 lines. And like this is a thumb, and then 4 other lines as if you were standing up for the flag.
Yeah.
And you know, the reason is there's been a lot of sacrifice made for our flag and for the privileges that we get to enjoy. So let's be grateful for that. So our logo resembles the flag. We love the flag. We love our veterans. That's what we preach as a brand.
Okay.
And in our, when we first launched, and our social media just had like 10 posts, right? And it included the logo, and it included the flag and gratitude for America.
Yeah.
And I remember we had to schedule our first photo shoot, and our graphic designer was trying to find models. And we reached out to a modeling agency, and they're like, sorry, we don't have anyone available. And he was like, today, or like ever? Like, what's going on? They're like, honestly, you're just a very conservative brand, and we don't want to make our models feel uncomfortable. He was like, what made you think we're a conservative brand? Well, the flag. And we're like,
how ridiculous.
Wow. And then he went on to kind of go through and explain it and at that point, we didn't really want to work with them.
What's even more funny is, like, our American military employs more minority individuals than white people by like a lot.
Yeah. But at what point did the flag become conservative or one-sided? And that's really what we're trying to do, is just open up this conversation that just because I'm right or I'm left, it doesn't take my flag away from me.
Right.
It's still there.
And I'm very patriotic.
It still unites us. Yeah.
And I will say, though, too, like, I understand, because of the way things are portrayed in the media and the news and sometimes the people wielding the flag. I get the perspective that some people have. Sure. Where it may be tied in with that, because that's what they've been thinking too. But it just sucks that I can't be both. Yeah. Because, like, there's not an equal right I wouldn't fight for any individual in this country.
100%.
But that's because I live in this country too.
That's right.
Right? And so it is sucky to be like, I was just talking about this recently, how, like, we have a flag outside of our house, and sometimes I think people in my neighborhood, because I live in a fairly liberal neighborhood, which is fine, and I have a lot of liberal beliefs. I have a
Totally.
lot of middle ground beliefs.
Totally. Same.
I think, if anything, I'd be a libertarian before I'd be either side of
Yes.
either thing.
Yeah.
Less government all around. Let me make my own
Totally.
choices. Let me keep my money.
Exactly.
So, but it just sucks because it's like I have a military background family. I love my uncles. I love my grandfather. And I shouldn't feel ashamed of that.
No.
Right?
Just,
And so, like,
I think just the
it's kinda
opposite.
weird.
But I will tell you also, I've just in this position been able to have some of the most beautiful conversations that started thinking like we were totally on the opposite sides of the spectrum. And I mean, I would say every time, because I can't think of one conversation that went in a different
South,
direction.
polarizing completely.
Every time we ended up uniting over the things that really matter.
Something.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what's cool.
Like,
right?
oh, you love your connection, but they get on your nerves sometimes too?
Yeah.
Me too.
So, I mean, totally. Like, do I love everything? No.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful. And that for us, you know, we try to think, okay, what are some of the key words for us? And pride was, you know, proud to be, okay, I don't know if I'm always proud, but I'm always grateful.
Yeah.
So gratitude is what really underlines
I think there's
our
a lot
brand.
of goofballs on both sides of the fence.
Oh my gosh.
But I think I'll wrap with this. So usually at the end of each show, I like to express something that I feel like I learned from you today.
Okay.
And then I like you to leave with some parting wisdom.
Oh.
And
You didn't prepare me for this, dang
that
it.
should be a question I ask in advance, I guess.
Well, no, that's actually good to put someone on the
Good.
spot because it just needs to boop.
So I think the thing I learned today that I'll take away from this the most is the when you're talking about accountability and having that next goal set, is that the journey is the most important part of it. Because I hadn't thought of it in that literal sense yet. I knew it was exciting to achieve
I
goals,
love that.
but I didn't really think about it in the terms of like, that's the exciting part, is achieving them, right?
Yes.
So that was really cool, and I appreciate that takeaway from today.
Awesome.
And the other thing I'm taking away is when you talk about divisiveness with clothing brands, I'm reminded of a quote. There was a mayor or governor or something running in North Carolina, and they were Oprah and a couple other people were trying to get Michael Jordan to endorse this guy. They're like, why won't you endorse this guy? You know, for the first black mayor, and he's like, it has nothing to do with the color. It's politics. He said, Democrats and Republicans both buy tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I love that.
I
love that, MJ.
him.
Yeah.
The real goat
Yeah, the real
of
goat.
all time.
I don't care what these 20-year-olds say about
No
LeBron
kidding.
James.
Don't get me started.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So, what is some wisdom that you would like to bestow upon us today as you part?
Wisdom, that makes me feel old too, but that's okay.
What's something you've learned? What's something you've learned?
I will tell
That's a
you
better way to
something.
ask it, actually. What's something you've learned in life? Because wisdom also is kind of an arrogant, like that makes it sound like you might be like coming from a place up here, right? Because that's how I want to see him at all. So what's something you've learned in life that you find helpful?
Something that I have to remind myself, I think, more in certain parts of life than others is it'll pass, you know? And so I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in, usually this comes out during hardship,
Okay.
and we get so wrapped up and we spiral, and I tend to do this a lot, where it's like right now feels so heavy and it feels like it's not going to get better, but it always does. You just got to give it time.
Yeah.
You got to hopefully figure out, get help if needed, figure out, get awareness on what feels heavy, why does it feel heavy, and how do I start to climb out of that. Even if it's just 1% every day, it adds up.
Yeah.
And then being on the other side of it, you just look back and you're like, it did pass. What's next? So everything passes, and I think, enjoying the journey, learning the lessons, letting go what doesn't serve, and knowing it'll pass.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Was
for
that
coming on the
wise?
show. I loved it.
Okay,
It was super wise.
Okay, good.
It was Al-esque.
Oh, that's what I was going for.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Loved
This
it.
was awesome.